The haunting night of Project W.I.L.D. The truth behind the American sleep experiment at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3, an ominous hour marked by whispers and shadows. In the dead of night, when even the bravest souls tucked themselves away under layers of comfort, something sinister loomed across the abandoned walls of the old military facility known as Project W.I.L.D. People said it was haunted, but what they didn't know was that on this very night, the truth would force its way into the open like a coiled serpent. Something truly chilling was stirring within those walls. Reports of strange sounds had circulated for years. Low growls echoed through the stark, empty hallways. Distorted laughter sometimes echoed, layered with sobs of despair that sent shivers down the spine. Night after night, brave thrill-seekers dared one another to enter, hoping to catch a glimpse of the ghostly figures rumored to roam its halls. Was it the restless spirits of test subjects, or merely the whimsy of urban legends? As rumors grew, so did the anticipation. Locals noticed an uptick in unexplainable happenings, flickering lights, shadows darting from corner to corner, but it was just the beginning. Cats and dogs refused to approach the area, their instincts screaming danger. It was as if the ground beneath them was woven with invisible threads of unease, pulling every living thing away from what lay inside. Inside Project W.I.L.D., a darkness awaited. Those brave enough to approach the entrance found that the air crackled like electricity, a deep sensation that pricked at their skin. And when the doors finally creaked open, a fear that twisted in stomachs like a knife welcomed them, intensified by the foreboding silence within. But then came the grimmer tale: the missing files. Records of the experiments from years past had vanished, swallowed whole by the very walls they once occupied. Some said the subjects were given drugs to enhance their abilities to dream wicked dreams that could claw their way back into reality. What they did to those people, those lost souls, haunted not just the facility, but the minds of the townsfolk. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As midnight crawled closer, an unbearable tension began to grip the few remaining pioneers who dared to venture inside. Cold drafts seemed to whisper warnings, rattling the old metal beams, and for every step they took, a weight pressed down harder upon their hearts. Was it just fear, or was something lurking in the shadows? The unsettling tempo of their breathing heightened the uncertainty. Then, a metallic scream pierced the night. Non-human and gut-wrenching, it shattered the silence. The group spun around, eyes wide with terror. They had hoped for a glimpse of a ghost. But what if it wasn't a ghost at all? The air thickened with dread, as unspoken questions filled the space between them. What truly happened within these haunted walls? It was too late to turn back. What were they about to uncover? As the shadows danced menacingly around them, the true horror of Project W.I.L.D. began to unfold. The atmosphere grew thick with fear, the chilling screams still echoing in their ears. Jason, whose bravado had propelled him to the forefront of the group, now stood frozen, eyes darting as if tracing the source of that haunting wail. The others leaned into each other, fists clenched. "Did you hear that?" whispered Lily, her voice trembling, cutting through the suffocating silence. "Yeah, let us get out of here," Adam added, glancing nervously at the door as though it was the only escape. But something held them in place, a dreadful curiosity coupled with an inexplicable urge to uncover the truth. With heavy breaths, they exchanged glances. Each was desperate to flee, yet an invisible force tethered them to the spot. The darkness closed in tighter, swallowing the last sane remnants of their courage. Suddenly, the flickering of a light above them drew attention. It blinked with an erratic pulse, throwing jagged shadows across grimy walls. The faint outline of a figure emerged, distorting into shape before their very eyes. A face, warped and unsettling, peered from the shadows. The sight twisted their stomachs into knots. What are you? Jason stuttered, his bravado evaporating like morning mist, leaving him bare to the icy grasp of fear. I was, the voice echoed, melodic yet broken, like shattered glass in the dark. You shouldn't be here. Panic surged like a wildfire among them. Each pulse thrummed against their eardrums like a warning bell. They turned to bolt, 6 pairs of legs darting recklessly toward the exit. But as they rushed back, a loud thud reverberated behind them, freezing them in their tracks. A heavy door had slammed shut at the end of the hallway, sealing off their only escape. The groans of rusted metal echoed around them as the dark energy swelled in volume and intensity. They're coming," whispered Rachel, the newest member of their band, her eyes wide with terror. The dim light flickered wildly as distant shuffles stirred the depths of the corridor. Then, something unexpected happened. A soft glow broke from the farthest room, illuminating rows of dusty, moldy floors, the remnants of cruel experiments long abandoned. "It's a way out!" Lily shouted, eyes catching the desperate spark of hope. "We need to get to that light." Ignoring the gnawing fear, they rushed toward the eerie glow, their hearts racing as adrenaline pumped through their veins. The distance seemed to stretch interminably, shadows clawing at them as they ran, like malevolent spirits intent on dragging them back. As they neared the room, a blood-curdling howl pierced the air again, emanating from where the light beckoned. The terror surrounding them escalated. Were they heading toward salvation or straight into the jaws of something unimaginable? "Wait!" Jason shouted, skidding to a stop just before entering the luminous threshold. "What if it's a trap?" But there was no time for debate. They had no choice but to plunge ahead. The glow enveloped them as they stepped through the threshold, revealing a sight that froze them in astonishment. It was a laboratory, its walls lined with photos of subjects from the long-forgotten experiments they'd heard whispered about. Scattered papers, scribbled notes, hastily tossed away, understood intentions, dark realizations, and ethical nightmares. Suddenly, the lights dimmed, and the door slammed shut behind them. "We're not alone," Adam gasped. A shuffle echoed nearby, the sound of something alive, and yet so terribly wrong. They turned just in time to meet the gaze of a figure, staring at them from the shadows, eyes glinting with feral hunger. "What have you awakened?" it growled. The realization crashed over them like an avalanche, leaving no escape as they bore witness to the haunting truth behind Project W.I.L.D. The horrors they thought were legends were alive, screaming, pacing like caged predators, ready to strike. What had they unleashed within these walls? The air thickened again with uncertainty as footsteps approached, relentless and ominous. It was time to confront the haunting truth and maybe, just maybe, pay for what they had awakened. The figure in the shadows stepped forward, illuminating its grotesque features in the faint light. Ratty, matted hair spilled across a gaunt face, skin stretched tight over what looked like a skeletal frame. Its eyes were pools of darkness, devoid of any humanity. The 4 of them backed away instinctively, crashing against the cold, sterile walls of the laboratory, their hearts pounding like war drums in a state of disarray. "They know you're here," the creature rasped, voice low and chilling, a sound that echoed with familiarity like a long-lost whisper that now became horrifyingly clear. "You're not the first to trespass." Rachel clutched Adam's arm, nails digging in like hooks, her breath coming in short, desperate gasps. What are you?" she managed to choke out, eyes wide with disbelief and fear. "Results of the experiments," it replied without hesitation. "Failures and successes. We are the product of ambition unchecked, of what lurks when rules are defied." Lily squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, trying to absorb the grotesque truths echoing in the lab. What had they uncovered? The air was thick with the stench of decay and regret, a haunting reminder of the evils that had been unleashed in this very room. "This is the end, right? We can't be next," she whispered, her voice wavering. "No one escapes the cycle," it chuckled, a low, sinister sound that sent chills racing down their spines. "You are now part of the legacy of Project W.I.L.D. The lights flickered ominously, casting wicked shadows that danced along the walls. The sense of dread deepened as they felt the pulse of something lurking near them, an echo of lost souls who had once roamed freely before being twisted into these horrors. Let us find another way out. Jason exclaimed, panicking. We can't stay here. They turned to run, but another figure emerged from the darkness, moving with a predatory grace. It stepped into the fading light, revealing more tortured forms, eyes hungry and bright with the thrill of the hunt. Jason's earlier courage drained away as sheer terror seized him. Together, Rachel gasped, feeling the weight of the moment heavy on her chest. We can make it. We can fight. They fumbled towards a door at the far end of the room. If it opened, if it didn't lead to more terrors. But as they reached the handle, it wouldn't budge. It felt like their escape slipped away with every passing second, like ice melting in the relentless heat. No, no! Don't let them take us! Lily screamed, her voice cracking. The monstrous figures began to close in, relentless and sinister, their breaths like winter gusts overshadowing the warm, stagnant air. Suddenly, a deafening crash echoed from behind, shaking the foundations of the lab. Something, or someone, was forcing its way into the nightmare within. The wretched creatures hesitated just long enough, allowing a flicker of hope to ignite. Jason, lunging back toward the door, grasped Lily's hand. Now! We push! As they strained against the door, the shadows surged forward, a tide of malevolence ready to pull them under. Heart rates skyrocketed, blood roared in their ears. Just how many horrors lurked within these walls? But before they could find out, light broke through the cracks. Maybe, just maybe, salvation awaited them. Yet even as they forced their way through, something cold brushed against Rachel. A whisper crept into her mind, echoing sweetly with the dreadful truth. You can't escape the past nor those who know it too well. The harrowing chase had only just begun. What more awaited them on the other side of that door? Would they find freedom or face a darkness even more profound? A rumble of laughter filled the air, haunting and bitter as the truth twisted around them. What if they were already too late? The door flung open, and they tumbled through, gasping for breath as the chaos of the lab faded behind them. Bright, sterile light blinded them momentarily, and a wave of relief washed over their terror-stricken faces. But as they staggered into the corridor, that relief quickly turned to dread again. The hallway was a stark contrast to the darkness they had escaped, yet the white walls felt suffocating, almost gleaming with a malevolence of their own. Flickering fluorescent lights hummed aggressively overhead, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and contract like hungry beasts searching for prey. What now? Jason shouted, his voice echoing off the walls. The panic was evident as he turned to face the others, his breath rapid and shallow. We shouldn't stay here, Lily urged, her body trembling with the aftershocks of their flight. Those things are still close behind us. Adam shook his head, trying to clear the fog of fear. Maybe we can find a way to barricade the door? Or disable the lights. He had to think fast, had to give them something tangible to hold onto against the encroaching darkness. Rachel, still clutching his arm, caught her breath, her mind racing. What if we don't just hide? What if we can reverse what they did? Her voice steadied, gaining strength from the ember of hope flickering within her. Reverse it? Are you out of your mind? Jason snapped, panic boiling over. We need to get out, not play scientist. Before they could argue further, a hollow shout echoed from behind. They have escaped. It was angry, guttural, twisting dangerously around them, saturating the air with cold dread. The creatures were coming, their twisted forms loomed over them like a predator extracting its cruel pleasure before the kill. Run! Rachel screamed. They dashed down the hallway, footsteps pounding on the floor, echoing the frantic rhythm of their racing hearts. The corridor twisted like a labyrinth, every turn threatening to lead them deeper into the nightmare. Wait! Adam panted, stopping abruptly at a junction that branched out into 3 paths. Which way? Does it matter? Jason shouted over his shoulder. Just pick. Right. Lily urged, pointing toward a narrow, dimly lit passage. Let us go. They sprinted down the cramped corridor, the walls closing in on both sides. It felt like the very space they occupied was alive, pulsing with malevolence. As they ran, Rachel caught glimpses of strange mechanisms through the glass windows lining the walls, clanking machines, bubbling liquids, and ominous cages. Each sight sent fresh waves of horror down her spine. What kind of experiments had taken place here? The walls began to pulse and scream with the echoes of anguish. Shapes with distorted faces stared at them from behind the glass, their mouths pressed against the surface in horror, eternally trapped. "We have to escape," Jason urged again, his voice trembling as he pressed forward. "There's no time for look," Adam hollered. "A door!" They reached a heavy, rusted door marked with faded biohazard symbols. Together, they threw their weight against it, and it creaked open, revealing a dark stairwell leading downward. Lily paused at the threshold, a chill gripping her. "What if this leads us into more trouble?" Rachel bit her lip, a surge of resolve rising within her. "It can't be worse than what we just faced. We don't have a choice. We have to go down." As they descended, each creaking step seemed to awaken a slumbering monster deep in the bowels of the facility. The darkness swirled around them like a living entity, palpable and thick. At the bottom, they found themselves in what looked like a control room, computers blinking with an unsettling life of their own. Monitors displayed surveillance feeds of the laboratory and the creatures that haunted it. One screen flickered, revealing a map of the building with a glowing red dot marking their position. But then, something caught Rachel's eye, a strange flicker on another monitor, revealing a chamber filled with files and documents. The words, "W.I.L.D. Project, Final Experiment," scrolled across the screen. "Should we look?" She hesitated, fear gripping her heart as she waved her arm toward it. Before they could decide, a heavy thud echoed from above. Something was following. The laughter from the creatures swelled once more, reverberating sinister echoes, taunting them. "No time." Jason's voice cracked. "We need to move." With urgency coursing through them, Rachel turned back to the screen, a thought piercing her mind. What if this wasn't just about us? What if we could expose everything they did? But just as she reached for the mouse, the lights blinked off, plunging them into darkness. "Where are you?" Adam shouted, panic creeping into his voice. The walls began to tremble, vibrating with a low, ominous growl. "You have stirred the past," a voice echoed. "And now, it will consume you." As darkness enveloped them, the door to the control room banged open. Shadows poured in, and the laughter crescendoed into a dissonant symphony that filled the air with despair. What awaited them? Could there still be answers hidden, buried in the horrors of the past, or had they opened a door that sealed their fate? The very walls seemed to hum with a restless energy. Tonight was far from over. The room erupted into chaos as Jason flailed his arms in the darkness, trying to locate the others. The laughter, deep and echoing, reverberated off the cold metal walls, melding with the growls that rolled like thunder overhead. "Stay close," Rachel shouted, her voice breaking, but her determination surged through her chaos. The darkness felt physical, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. Suddenly, the lights flickered back on, illuminating the control room with a stark brightness. But their relief was short-lived. The monitors displayed static, and heavy shapes loomed in the shadows, creeping closer, drunk on the scent of fear. "Over there! Behind the console!" Lily pointed, her heart racing. Rachel darted towards the computer, adrenaline igniting her desperation. "We need to access that data before she could finish, a massive figure rushed through the door. Its form twisted, grotesque, with too many limbs and a face that was a nightmare come to life. "Run!" Adam roared. They scrambled towards the back of the room, hearts racing, breaths escaping in ragged gasps. The creature let out a roar that echoed off the walls, drowning out their screams. "Help me!" Rachel shouted, desperately slamming her hands on the keyboard. Lines of code flickered on the screen. "I think I can access the files." "Are you crazy? It'll see us," Jason hissed, pulse pounding in his ears. But Rachel was undeterred. "If there's a chance to fight back, I won't let it slip away." Another thud shook the room. The creature was relentless, charging forward. "Here, I got it!" Rachel exclaimed just as she navigated through the files, her fingers moving as fast as her racing heart. The screen displayed segments of data from W.I.L.D. experiments on human subjects, genetic manipulation, and mind control. It was worse than they had imagined. Mayhem experiments, all sanctioned by some sick experiment. Jason gasped, fear-laced with anger. Lily's eyes widened as she read the glowing text. They turn people into those things. Come on! We have to find a way to stop this. Adam grabbed Rachel's shoulder, shaking her from her focus. What's the plan? There's a remote shutdown protocol. If we can activate it, maybe we can cut off their power source, maybe save those trapped. Rachel's determination carved through the shadows of fear. The laughter grew closer, growing almost maddening. Panic surged. A cold sweat formed on Rachel's skin. Focus! Jason urged, glancing back as the creature lunged again, now just feet away. This is our only chance. Rachel's hands flew over the keyboard, her palms slick with sweat. I need the access code. Help me find it. Here. Adam thrust a torn piece of paper into her trembling hands. Scribbled numbers and letters stared back at her. As she punched in the code, the screech of metal echoed through the room. A flicker of hope ignited in her heart. Now! Hit enter! Jason yelled. Rachel pressed the key with a forceful determination, and the computer hummed ominously as the data began processing. The screens blinked, graphs rose and fell, and then silence washed over everything. But the creature didn't stop. It lunged forward, its claws glinting in the flickering light. No! Lily screamed, instinctively blocking Rachel. The ground beneath them shook as a wild, pulsating energy thrummed through the walls. What's happening? Rachel yelled, horrified. The monitors erupted in a bright flash, displaying a countdown timer. We need to leave. Now! Adam shouted, his voice laced with urgency. The creature clawed at the ground, inches from them. Time was slipping away, every second pulling them deeper into danger. Which way? Which way? Jason panicked, looking at the door they had come through and back to the control panel that was now sparking ominously. I don't know! Rachel screamed, as the timer ticked down. We might have to. Suddenly, the lights began flickering violently, and the very walls seemed to pulse in sync with the timer. It's going to blow! Adam shouted, panic seeping into his voice. No! That can't be, Rachel stammered, staring at the countdown. But just then, the ground trembled, and the machines whirred to life, threatening to collapse all around them. In the chaos, something sharp snagged at Rachel's ankle, dragging her down. The laughter echoed ominously, drowning her words. Help! She yelled, reaching for Jason's hand as the shadow loomed over her. But just as Jason lunged to grab her, the screen lit up one last time, warning, containment failure imminent. A final crash of metal drowned her scream as darkness enveloped her. Would it be the end? Or something worse? What secrets lingered in the depths of the facility, waiting to be unearthed? Darkness engulfed Rachel, an abyss of confusion and fear. For a moment, there was nothing but the oppressive silence punctuated by her ragged breathing. The sensation of falling gripped her, but then just as quickly she landed hard on a cold surface. Rachel! Jason's voice pierced through the shadow, drawing her focus. She blinked, trying to shake off the haze. The control room was gone. In its place stood a narrow corridor, half lit by flickering overhead lights. Where are we? She gasped, the lingering dread clawing at her chest. Right behind you! Shouted Adam, his voice distorted, panicked. The creature! The thought jolted her back to reality. She spun around, but what she found sent a wave of nausea through her. The hallway pulsed with grotesque figures, each one resembling the monster from before, but far worse, like twisted versions of people, half-formed and writhing as if they were fighting their own skin. Run! This way! Lily urged, pointing towards an escape route that led deeper into the maze of steel and shadows. They sprinted. As they raced down the corridor, Rachel's mind raced faster. What if they're trapped like us? We have to help them. Are you crazy? Jason barked, nearly colliding with her. We can't save them if we get killed ourselves. But Rachel felt the pull of their anguished wails. I can't just leave them. Ahead, more figures emerged, lunging from crevices with a soulless hunger in their eyes. A feeling of dread filled her. The clocks around her wrist ticked madly, mocking her inner turmoil. The countdown could still be ticking somewhere, she realized. They might not have much time. Just then, a massive figure shot past them, its hulking body barreling through the corridor. It brushed against Rachel, the cold, clammy skin sending chills down her back. "This way!" she screamed, darting into a side room just as the walls echoed with monstrous laughter. They tumbled into what looked like a laboratory, a stark contrast to the chaotic hallway. Here, Stark's surgical tools lay discarded, glass containers filled with strange substances lined the shelves, and old photographs were pinned across a bulletin board. Each image seemed to tell a story of human suffering, patients before and after their transformations. "Look!" Lily gasped, pointing to a logo stamped on a device shimmering against the wall. "That's W.I.L.D. Rachel's heart raced, a passionate fury mixing with fear. Everything is connected. They used this facility to turn people into those monstrosities. Suddenly, the doors slammed shut behind them. Light dimmed and a chilling voice echoed through the room. "You think you can run from the truth? The truth is a weapon. And you are nothing but pawns." "Who's there?" Adam shouted, fists clenched. From the shadows stepped a figure, cloaked in a lab coat, face obscured. "You meddle in matters beyond your understanding. It's time to embrace what you truly are." Rachel felt her breath quicken. "What do you mean?" In response, the figure raised a hand, and all at once, rows of file screens clicked to life. Each one unveiled the faces of the lost, their expressions eternally frozen in terror. "Will you join them, or will you fight for freedom? Your choice will define the future." Rachel's mind spun. Freedom from what? From what they could become. Choices lay before her, heavy like stones in her heart. "Rachel, we have to go," Jason hissed, but the fear in his voice was masked by urgency. A countdown flickered silently on the main screen. "We don't have much time." With adrenaline surging through her veins, Rachel grasped the burning weight of responsibility. "We'll fight. We will end this." But as she turned to lead them back to the door, the room trembled, and the creature's laughter roared once more, blending seamlessly into a horrid symphony of terror. With every second slipping away, they faced a choice: escape, or plunge deeper into the truth they never expected to uncover. Were they willing to confront the unspeakable horrors within? What awaited them on the other side? The shadows pulsed, ready to reveal their darkest secrets. The walls vibrated with the grotesque laughter as panic surged through Rachel's veins. "We have to make a choice now. That countdown won't stop." She turned towards the screens, desperate for answers. The faces staring back were not just victims, they were a mirror of her nightmares. Jason pulled at her arm, his grip firm and grounding. "We need a plan. If we engage with whatever this is, we might not come back." The looming threat in his voice was almost a whisper, a subtle reminder of the stakes. Adam hesitated, glancing back at the screens illuminating the horror around them. What if fighting leads to a worse fate? What are we saving them from if we don't even know what awaits us? The figure in the lab coat stepped closer, still obscured, but the air grew thick with its presence. "Your fear is palpable. It drives your choices. Perhaps that's what we've harnessed. Fear can be both weapon and shield." Rachel swallowed hard, weighing their breaths against the ticking clock. "But we can't just stand here. You, whoever you are, you've used these people." Rage pulsated through her, igniting her spirit. "You've twisted them. We can't be your pawns." Lily's eyes flicked between each horrified face on the screens, longing for clarity. But what if there's a way to save them? Maybe there's a switch, anything we can do? The lab-coated figure chuckled softly, tauntingly. "You seek to rewrite the narrative, yet you're but children playing with fire. What if I told you the path to salvation could lie within those very temptations, and yet it comes with a cost?" "What do you mean?" Jason interjected, his voice thick with fear. "Understanding your potential requires sacrifice," the figure replied, an eerie calmness in its tone. "You each hold the key, embedded deep within your very selves. Would you dare confront it? Would you dare release your own suffering? A flash of memories trenched Rachel's mind, the moments that haunted her dreams, each one a bone-chilling reflection of failure, a constant reminder of shadows lurking just behind the facade of her ordinary life. You're trying to toy with our emotions, she declared, clenching her fists. But we won't bend to your will. With a devious grin that pierced through the shadows, the figure gestured towards the screens. Then it is a simple choice. Embrace your darkness or watch innocence fall into the void. Suddenly, the walls vibrated more violently, as if the building itself were alive, caught in the throes of an impending storm. A series of alarms blared, drowning out the laughter, signaling time was close to running out. Rachel! Lily shouted, her voice fierce with urgency, we're losing ground. We have to fight. Fight for them, for us. The countdown on the screen shrieked seconds left, ticking away harshly, like ominous bells tolling. What are we waiting for? Adam cried, his breath heavy with determination. If the choice is ours, let us reclaim our fate. Rachel squared her shoulders, feeling an electric pulse of resolve coursing through her, pushing her forward. We confront our fears. We reclaim their faces. As they formed a circle, holding tight to one another, the shadows deepened around them. The true nature of W.I.L.D lurked just beyond, waiting for them to unveil the hidden horrors, to reach depths they never anticipated. But just as they stepped towards the screens, a final wall of blackness surged forth. Something primal and powerful roared from the depths, and Rachel felt it lurch towards them, a dark wave that threatened to swallow them all. Stand together! Jason yelled over the cacophony, but the sound was swallowed whole by a deafening silence that followed, a breath before the scream. Would they harness the darkness, or was it destined to consume them whole? The entity's true form loomed near, its terror only just beginning to unfold. A choice lay ahead, terrifying and unfathomable. In that moment, the lines between ally and enemy blurred, any resolve shattering into uncertainty. What was lurking beneath the surface, ready to pounce? What other horrors awaited them as the final countdown struck its last vibrant tone? As silence draped over them, the last echoes of the countdown hung like a noose. Rachel's heart raced, each beat a drum of dread echoing in the void that enveloped them. The darkness shifted, undulating and thrumming with malevolence. A chill crawled up her spine, a whisper of something ancient and wicked lurking just out of sight. Then, with a flash brighter than the sun, an eruption of light burst from the screens, blinding and unsettling. Faces distorted, twisted in agony, blinked to life. A cacophony of suffering leapt forth, drowning them in a wave of raw emotion. Rachel instinctively shielded her eyes, but the images burned into her mind. They were not just test subjects, they were people, breathing, living right up until their reality shattered around them. Get ready! Jason's voice shattered her paralysis, the resolve in it reverberating through the air. We have to face this. Lily's hand tightened on Rachel's, warmth somehow breaking through the suffocating gloom. We can't back down, not now, she urged, her eyes alight with fierce determination despite the horror unfolding. Fear isn't going to save them. We need to find a way to fight. Nodding, Rachel focused on the screens where the faces flickered in and out, some grimacing, others reaching out as if trying to escape the confines of their digital prison. She felt their pain, recognized their desperation. We can't let it win. We have to harness our fear, remember why we're here. With that mantra, the darkness receded slightly, revealing chaotic tendrils that danced around them, seeking to envelop and ensnare. They were moving, swirling with intent, like a predator stalking its prey. Suddenly, the lab-coated figure materialized fully, shadows blending into its form. It seemed to thrive in this chaos, a twisted maestro conducting a dreadful symphony. You think you can confront the shadows? You think courage can face what you fear the most? It taunted, a voice rich with amusement. Rachel stepped forward, her voice steady. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act despite it. That declaration sparked something within their circle. Adam surged forward, fists clenched. Let us show it what we're made of. Together. With a loud gasp, the screens exploded. Colors flooded the room, snapshots of their lives, memories that once brought joy now tinted with regret. Each fragment became a yearning that spiraled into a potent force, filling the void of despair around them. It was their truth, their agony bound together in purpose. "Focus!" Jason called out, fire igniting in his eyes. "Channel your pain. Use it!" Rachel closed her eyes, breathing deep. Memories flooded her, all of her failures, all the moments she felt less than whole. She squeezed Lily's hand tighter and locked eyes with Jason and Adam, drawing strength from their bonds. They lacked clarity, but what they shared was undeniable. As if recognizing their united front, the swirling shadows hesitated, flickering uncertainly. In that moment, Rachel saw a chance. "We can rewrite this story. We are stronger than the horrors they think will consume us." Each breath grew more potent, a harmony swelling in the air around them. The force of their collective will began to push against the darkness, illuminating the chamber with a fierce glow. The laughter crackled in discomfort, morphing into agonized howls as they fought back. Yet, just as victory seemed within reach, a piercing shriek erupted from the very walls, a warning, an omen of what lay beyond their grasp. The ground trembled, and the very fabric of their reality seemed to fray. "Stay together!" Adam shouted, desperation creeping into his tone. But something in the shadows shifted again, a new power rising from the depths. "You think it ends here?" The figure crooned, eyes gleaming with dark delight. "Your true test is just beginning." Rachel felt the upheaval, a new threat emerging from the dark, wild and chaotic. What horrors awaited them now, hidden behind the folds of looming despair? Would they be able to overcome the shadows that were about to descend, or was this battle just a prelude to something far worse? The real horror was still lurking just outside their sight, waiting to strike when they least expected it. The shadows twisted and turned, coalescing into a swirling mass of darkness that felt alive, eager to swallow them whole. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest, each thump echoing the urgency of their situation. "What is happening?" she yelled, her voice barely cutting through the rising hysteria. "Don't let it break us," Jason shouted back, his determination igniting a fire within their group. They stood shoulder to shoulder, trembling yet resolute against this onslaught of malevolence. Gritting her teeth, Rachel forced herself to stay grounded. She could feel the weight of their memories behind her, fueling her resolve, an echo of laughter now twisted into a lament. As the darkness pressed upon them, a new sound filled the air, a low, rumbling growl, like thunder rolling across a stormy sky. The shadows writhed, revealing glimpses of grotesque figures formed from their deepest fears. Each silhouette flickered in and out, faces contorted in terror and anguish. Rachel recoiled, feeling bile rise in her throat. "No!" Lily cried, her voice blending with the rising cacophony. "We have to stand firm." Her unwavering spirit helped Rachel refocus, redirecting the rising dread into a burning anger instead. Rage surged through her veins. She wasn't just going to stand there, not any longer. "Channel it. Use your fury!" Adam suddenly sparked, eyes wide as he charged forward, fists raised. At that moment, Rachel felt the shadows shift, their movements almost reactive, as if the dark entities sensed their growing strength. "Feel it, don't fight it." Jason's voice boomed, the crescendo of their collective defiance resonated. All at once, the dim chamber flared with their shared energy, and the colored memories swirled around them again, now more vibrant and powerful. Rachel stepped into the fray, her spirit igniting with every ounce of conviction she could summon. "These shadows can't control us," she yelled, locking eyes with her friends. "We're not running from our pain, we're using it." With that declaration, the shadows trembled, pausing their relentless advance. The darkness around them seemed to shrink, revealing fragments of the heart-wrenching memories they clung to. The troubled faces on the screens transformed into a swirling, vibrant whirlwind. They were gaining strength from the darkness itself. However, the malevolent figure merely laughed, a sound that sent shivers down Rachel's spine. "You think you can conquer the shadows? Your strength will only serve to unleash the nightmares you wish to contain." Suddenly, the ground beneath them split, a chasm opening wide. "Hold on!" Jason shouted as the team struggled to remain anchored. The growl grew louder, morphing into a horrific cacophony, resonating like a predator stalking its prey. "Don't let go!" Lily screamed, her voice outshouting the chaos around them. Rachel's grip on her friend's hands tightened, heart racing as the world tilted dangerously. Then silence. The shadows halted, reactionary fears looming just within sight. For a brief moment, they were suspended in a surreal limbo, a breath held in collective anticipation. Rachel felt a flicker of hope surge. Perhaps they could disrupt the cycle of dread and light. But just as they began to gather their strength, a pulse of blinding light erupted from the darkness, swallowing everything whole. The bond connecting them vibrated, tugging at their resolve as if the universe itself was probing their unity. When the beam vanished, they were no longer in the lab. Instead, they found themselves in a forest, thick with fog and swirling shadows. The metallic building was nowhere in sight. Panic twisted in Rachel's gut. "Where are we?" she breathed. Before any of them could respond, whispers began to fill the woods, 1,000 voices, soft yet accusatory. "Why did you leave us?" they lamented, echoing their torment. The figures from the screens emerged from the fog, their expressions frozen in heartbreaking distress. "What have we done?" Adam stammered, eyes wide with horror. The shadows loomed closer, deeper despair thickening the air. Rachel felt their presence, suffocating her. Their plight hovered between darkness and hope. Were they damned to relive the torment, or could they find a way to break free? As she stared into those haunting faces, despair gnawed at her resolve. "We need to find a way out," she shouted, conviction cracking under pressure. Her breath caught in her throat as the shadows began to close in. Could they find the strength to confront this new nightmare? Or would the echoes of their past descend into a darkness from which there was no escape? The weight of fear pressed heavily on Rachel's chest as the shadows danced around them, taunting and swirling like smoke in the wind. She could see their eyes lifeless, hollow, screaming for help. "Stay close." Jason's voice cut through the thickening dread, urging them to remain united. "We can't let them take us." Lily's determination, like a lighthouse in a storm, anchored her friends. But the whispers were relentless, weaving tales of torment through each of their minds, causing cracks in their resolve. "What do they want from us?" Adam's voice quivered, strained from holding back the panic clawing at the edges of their sanity. "We need to find the source," Rachel shouted, heart pounding with desperation. "If we can confront whatever is battling within these shadows, maybe we can free them." She tried to rally their spirits, but the faces twisted and sorrow clouded her hope. Ahead, a glimmer pierced the fog, a spectral light flickering like a heartbeat. "What is that?" Jason pointed, his fear intertwined with curiosity. As they moved cautiously toward the glow, the forest thickened around them, each step heavy with anticipation of what lay beyond the darkness. The light grew stronger with every advance, revealing a small clearing. At its center stood an ancient stone pedestal, glowing with an ethereal shimmer. On top lay an intricate crystal, pulsing rhythmically. It dominated the space, calling to them, resonating with both fear and longing. "That must be it," Rachel breathed, awe intertwining with her fear. "But how do we use it?" Adam whispered, glancing back at the encroaching shadows that still writhed just beyond the light. A collective sense of urgency charged their hearts. Time was slipping away, and so was their courage. As they reached out, the air crackled with energy, vibrating through their fingertips. Rachel felt the force shooting through her, igniting a fierce pulse of courage. "Look!" she shouted, pulling the others close. "It's responding to us." The crystal illuminated their faces, absorbing the flickering memories swirling around them. "Remember who you are," Lily cried out, her voice cutting through the fog of despair. "We can't let them define us." With each word, the fog receded slightly, a warmth rushing through their entwined hands as if their unity was a flame in the darkness. The shadows recoiled, shrieking in a cacophony that rattled through the trees. Once again, those haunting figures emerged, their hands reaching out beseechingly, begging for redemption. Rachel's heart raced. "We can't just leave them behind," she yelled, the urge to help overwhelming her sense of self-preservation. Suddenly, the pedestal pulsed violently, as if in response to her words. "No!" Jason shouted, the urgency in his voice lifting above the swarm of whispers. "If we connect with them, we have to be ready for the weight of their pain." "Together!" Rachel shouted, locking eyes with each friend, determination brewing in her gaze. They took a deep breath and reached for the light, the crystal glowing brighter as they merged their energy with it. As they placed their hands around it, memories flooded in tendrils of grief, loss, hope, and despair all crashed together inside them, blending into a whirlwind of emotion. The shadows writhed, the figures' faces contorted in anguish, amplifying the pressure weighing down on Rachel and her friends. "Fight it!" Jason shouted, grit in his voice. "We are stronger!" The crystal emitted a shockwave that resonated with the screams around them, erupting into a blinding flare of light. Through the glow, Rachel saw the shadows begin to transform, their sorrow morphing into a beautiful light, soaking the ground like rain after a long drought. The whispers turned from cries of despair to words of gratitude, enveloping them like a warm embrace. "We've done it," Lily whispered, tears streaming down her face. The shadows dissolved into soft beams, gliding into the light like moths to a flame. The figures' faces calmed, the torment fading. But then a thundering roar erupted behind them. The darkness returned, angrier than ever, a colossal shadow looming over the pedestal. "You think you are free?" the malevolent figure hissed, its voice wrapping around them like chains. "You awakened what should have remained buried." Rachel clenched her fists, rallying the strength bolstered by the freed souls behind them. "We won't let you control us," she shouted defiantly, as a surge of power coursed through her, igniting the space around them. The ground trembled, the light brighter, illuminating the dark form. "We stand together!" Jason, Adam, and Lily yelled in unison, linking hands, amplifying their resolve. The crystal flashed, responding to their unity, creating a barrier, dispelling the darkness encroaching upon them. "Finish what you started!" they roared, pouring their rage and pain into the light, electrifying the air with raw energy. Sweeping waves of brilliance engulfed the malevolent figure, capturing it within the radiance. The shadows screamed again, this time in agony, as the tides turned. The oppressive weight lifted, freeing their minds from the torment. With a final pulse, the darkness shattered like glass, fragmented shards of darkness exploding into a cascade of light. In the aftermath, silence fell, soothing their frayed nerves. Rachel opened her eyes, breathless, glancing around at her friends. "Did we do it?" "Yes," Jason breathed, glancing into the clearing that had rejuvenated from the battle. The air felt lighter, filled with lingering warmth. New dawn light filtered through the trees as they stood together, the crystal now calm and still, cradled in pure tranquility. It was a reminder of their victory, yet echoed with hopes of those left behind. "We need to make sure this never happens again," Adam whispered, determination reignited. "This wasn't just about us, their pain doesn't end here." As the sun rose higher, they resolved to uncover the truth and share what they had unveiled. There was still much work to be done beyond the reclaimed light of Project W.I.L.D, ensuring no shadows could fall again. Together, they stepped forward, hand in hand, ready to face whatever battles lay ahead, filled with the knowledge that their connection was a formidable shield against the dark. But the echoes of the past still lingered, a haunting reminder that every truth must be uncovered. They were no longer just survivors, they were now warriors of light in a world that had forgotten the importance of fighting back against the darkness. And as they ventured into the dawn, every shadow would tremble at the strength of their united will. The end, for now. You need to subscribe now to keep up with our incredible stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now, feed the algorithm and help others discover this wild journey. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this powerful tale ends. Join the movement, let's bring everyone aboard.